6 a.m., February 19, 1945. The sun had not yet broken the horizon over the Pacific. Major General Harry Schmidt stood on the deck of the command ship USS El Dorado, gripping the railing, his eyes fixed on the island shrouded in black smoke. The salty sea breeze hit his face, carrying the lingering scent of gunpowder from 3 days of continuous bombardment. 3 days, 72 ceaseless hours. Thousands of tons of bombs had rained down on that tiny island. 16-inch naval guns roared in waves, turning the ground into a sea of fire. B-24 and B-25 bombers prowled the skies, dropping clusters of bombs on every conceivable hiding spot. The island looked as if it had been pulverized to ash, with nothing left alive. Schmidt raised his binoculars, scrutinizing every square meter of the coastline. No movement, no signs of life. Only black smoke billowing from pockmarked craters and volcanic black sand stained the color of ash. 5 days, he whispered to the staff officer standing beside him. Just 5 days, and it's done. Maybe sooner. The officer nodded in agreement. They had fought many battles in the Pacific: Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Saipan, Kalaleu. They knew how the Japanese fought. Fierce beach defenses with dense fortification systems, followed by suicidal banzai charges. Frantic waves rushing American lines, with screams echoing to the sky. Bloody, but predictable. And once predictable, they had ways to deal with it. Schmidt didn't know he had just made the deadliest mistake of his career. 750 miles south of Tokyo, Iwo Jima lay amidst the vast ocean like a giant sleeping black turtle. The volcanic island was 8 kilometers long and less than 4 kilometers wide at its widest point. So small you could walk across it in a few hours. But its location made it an indispensable strategic stepping stone. Situated midway on the flight path from Saipan to Tokyo, B-29s bombing Japan needed a place for emergency landings when damaged or out of fuel. Iwo Jima was the only option. Whoever controlled this island would control the skies. And 20 meters underground, in a pitch-black bunker lit only by a few flickering oil lamps, a man had decided to rewrite all the rules of war. Lieutenant General Tadamichi Kuribayashi sat before a topographical map, his eyes cold as steel, scanning every contour. He was 53 years old, unusually tall for a Japanese man of that era, with an angular face and eyes sharp as knives. Kuribayashi was unlike other Japanese generals. He had lived in the U.S., driven across America by car, and studied their industrial and military power. He knew his enemy better than anyone. Around him, an 18-kilometer tunnel system ran like a spider web across the island, the result of months of ceaseless labor. Thousands of soldiers and laborers had dug through volcanic rock as hard as steel, enduring stifling 40 Celsius heat underground, breathing air thick with the smell of sulfur. Many had died from exhaustion, from suffocation, from cave-ins, but they had finished. Every cave, every bunker was calculated meticulously to form a massive underground fortress. The tunnels connected like a maze, allowing troops to move from one point to another without exposing themselves above ground. Embrasures were positioned to create interlocking fields of fire, covering every blind spot. Ammunition depots, food stores, medical stations, even water wells. Everything was deep underground, where bombs and artillery could not reach. Junior officer entered the command bunker, bowed, and reported, "General, the American fleet has ceased bombardment. Landing craft are launching. The invasion will begin within 2 hours." Kuribayashi just nodded slightly. He had known this for a long time. He also knew that with 21,000 troops against 70,000 Marines armed to the teeth, with a mighty fleet and overwhelming air power, he had no chance of winning in the conventional way. But Kuribayashi did not intend to fight in the conventional way. "Assemble all officers," he ordered, his voice as calm as if discussing the weather. "I have something to say to them." 15 minutes later, nearly 20 senior officers stood in line in the cramped bunker. The oil lamps cast their shadows on the rock walls, creating grotesque shapes. The air was thick and sweltering, but no one dared to move. Kuribayashi stood up and walked to the map. He turned to look at the officers one by one, as if reading their souls. "No bonsai," he said, his voice cutting through the stifling air like cold steel. "No beach defense, no senseless charges." The officers looked at each other, stunned. A few even gaped in astonishment. That was how the Japanese had fought in every previous battle. That was the tradition passed down from generation to generation. It was the spirit of Bushido. It was the honor of the samurai. An old colonel, his face scarred from previous battles, stepped forward. "General, that is our tradition. It is honor." "Honor?" Kuribayashi cut him off, his voice suddenly sharp. "Dying pointlessly on the beach under naval gunfire? That is honor? Charging into machine gun fire to be wiped out in minutes? That is honor?" He shook his head, his eyes like two daggers piercing the colonel. "No, that is stupidity. That is waste." The bunker was silent as a tomb. No one dared to breathe loud. "Our mission," Kuribayashi continued, his voice lowering but remaining decisive, "is to kill as many Americans as possible. Each of you must kill 10 enemies before dying. That is true honor. That is how we serve the Emperor." He turned back to the map, pointing at the tunnels marked in red ink, like blood flowing through the island's body. "We will let them land. Let them think the artillery has wiped us out. Let them advance inland, confident and off guard. And when they are deep inside, when the beach is crowded with men and equipment, when they have no way out," he paused, lips pressed into a tight line, "we will turn this island into their graveyard." 9 a.m. The sun was high, casting a glaring light on the deep blue sea. Hundreds of LCVP landing craft formed long lines, engines roaring, cutting through the small waves toward the shore. Inside each craft, 30 Marines sat packed together, clutching M1 Garans and carbines, heavy packs on their backs. They had trained for months for this moment. They had heard stories of Tarawa, of Saipan, beaches turned into slaughterhouses. They knew that many of them would not survive the day. Sergeant Williams, 24 years old, from Texas, sat in the front row of the landing craft. He gripped his rifle so hard his knuckles turned white. His heart pounded in his chest, cold sweat running down his spine, even though it wasn't hot. Beside him, Private Martinez, a 19-year-old kid fresh out of school, was mumbling prayers, his lips trembling. "Get ready!" the lieutenant commanding the boat shouted. 30 seconds to the beach!" Williams took a deep breath. This was the deciding moment. Based on experience from previous battles, the Japanese would start firing as soon as the landing craft were 100 meters from shore. Machine guns, mortars, artillery, all would rain down. Many would die right on the boat before setting foot on the sand. The ramp dropped with a loud crash. "Go, go, go!" Williams charged out of the boat, feet hitting water up to his knees, then stepped onto the black sand. He ran, gun raised, eyes scanning everywhere for the enemy. But nothing happened. No gunfire, no welcoming volleys, no mortar explosions. Only the sound of waves lapping gently against the shore and the wind whistling over the charcoal black sand. Silence covered everything. A silence so strange, it was terrifying. Williams stopped, looking around. Thousands of Marines were landing on the beach, fanning out, looking for cover. But no one was shooting at them. No one was resisting. "Nobody's here," he muttered, eyes full of surprise. The artillery wiped them all out. "I thought I'd die the moment I stepped off the boat. Maybe this one will be easier than we thought, Sarge." Williams didn't answer. A strange premonition began to creep into his gut, as if something was watching them from the darkness, waiting. They began to advance inland, crossing the charcoal black volcanic sand. Every step was heavy. The sand was soft and porous like mud, sucking at their boots and pant legs, making movement incredibly difficult. Behind them, Sherman tanks tried to climb the bank, but their tracks spun in the sand, bogging down, unable to advance. Armored vehicles, trucks, towed artillery, everything was getting stuck on the beach, creating a chaotic pileup. Ahead, Mount Suribachi stood tall like a silent gatekeeper. The dormant volcano rose 169 meters high, its steep slopes covered in black volcanic rock. From the summit, one could observe the entire island and the entire landing beach. In the command bunker, deep underground, Kurabayashi listened to reports over the internal phone system. "General, approximately 10,000 enemy troops have landed. They are advancing inland, about 300 to 400 meters from the shoreline. The beach is crowded with equipment and reinforcements." For the first time in weeks, Kuribayashi smiled, a smile cold as winter moonlight. "Just as planned. Come deeper, invaders. Step into my trap." 10:30 a.m. Sergeant Williams's battalion had advanced 400 meters inland. Surrounding them was rugged terrain with pockmarked bomb craters and jagged volcanic rocks jutting up everywhere. Behind them, the beach was packed with tens of thousands of troops and hundreds of vehicles and equipment trying to move across the sand. There was no way back. Williams paused by a large rock, taking a sip of water from his canteen. He still couldn't shake the unease gnawing at him. It was too quiet, too easy. "Sarge, look!" Martinez pointed toward a hole in the ground about 20 meters away. "Looks like a bunker entrance." Williams didn't have time to react. Suddenly, the ground seemed to come alive. From Mount Suribachi to the south, dozens of embrasures suddenly opened like the eyes of demons, spitting fire like rain. From the northern plateau, Type 92 machine guns hidden in the rocks began to roar with their characteristic deadly rhythm. From positions no one expected, under boulders, from crevices, from perfectly camouflaged holes, firepower erupted from every direction at once. "Ambush! Ambush!" Martinez screamed, his voice choking with panic. The soldiers around him fell like cut grass. Machine gun fire swept across the ranks, tearing through bodies, turning young men into heaps of mangled flesh in an instant. Mortar shells fell like hail from hell, exploding in waves, tossing men and equipment into the air. 75mm and 150mm artillery from positions hidden deep underground roared, each explosion leaving a gaping crater and dozens of bodies. Williams dove behind the rock, his heart beating like a war drum. Around him were screams, groans, calls for a medic. Blood stained the black sand red, creating horrific muddy pools. "They're everywhere!" a soldier screamed. "They're everywhere!" And it was true. Fire came from all directions, from the front, from the flanks, even from behind. It was as if the Japanese knew exactly where they would be, had calculated every square meter in advance. In the command bunker, Kuribayashi stood by the map, listening to reports from the units. Targets have entered the kill zone. All units are firing according to plan. Enemy casualties are very high. He nodded, eyes cold as ice. They are looking for our bonsai attack. They won't find it. Keep firing. Don't stop. Do not spare ammunition. Show them what hell looks like. On the command ship USS El Dorado, Major General Schmidt received the first reports from the beach. His face went pale, his hand gripping the edge of the table until his knuckles turned white. "Casualties in the first hour?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "Estimated around 500, General, and the number is rising fast." Schmidt closed his eyes. He had made the gravest mistake of his career, underestimating the enemy. And now, the young boys under his command were paying the price in blood. Just as the suffocating combat reached its climax, tense to the point where every second feels like an eternity, this is also the moment we want to remind you. If you are enjoying this video, please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our next fascinating content. Your support is our biggest motivation to continue. The first day ended with 2,400 American casualties, 566 dead, nearly 1,800 wounded, nearly double any previous landing day in the Pacific War. And that was just the beginning. The Marines had been trained to deal with bonsai tactics, suicidal charges that could be predicted and countered with concentrated firepower. They knew how to dig foxholes, how to set up machine guns to mow down waves of rushing men. They had done it at Guadalcanal, at Tarawa, at Saipan. But Kuribayashi gave them no such chance. No bonsai, no frantic charges, only continuous fire from concealed positions they couldn't see, couldn't locate, couldn't destroy. Every cave, every bunker was a small fortress, firing a few bursts, then vanishing into the earth through secret tunnels, reappearing at another position hundreds of meters away. On the second day, Sergeant Williams' battalion received orders to attack a cave system on the slopes of Mount Suribachi. They approached carefully, step by step, guns always ready. The cave mouth appeared before them, a dark black hole about 2 meters wide. "Grenades!" Williams ordered. 3 grenades were tossed in, exploding with resounding booms. Smoke and dust billowed out. Then came the sound of gunfire, a burst from a Thompson sweeping the darkness. They rushed in, fire, screaming, gunshots, the smell of gunpowder, the smell of blood, the smell of sulfur, blended together to create a horrific, unforgettable stench. When the smoke cleared, 6 Japanese soldiers lay dead in the cave. Emaciated men in tattered uniforms, hands still clutching their rifles. They had fought to the last bullet. Williams shook his head, wiping sweat from his forehead. He looked around the cave, and his heart sank. At the back of the cave was a tunnel leading deep into the black earth. Flashlight beams only illuminated a few meters before being swallowed by the darkness. No knowing where it led, no knowing how many enemies were waiting on the other side. "This is gonna be a long fight," Williams whispered, cold sweat running down his spine. To take the island, they would have to take every cave like this, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, and every cave could be their grave. Every day, 100 to 200 American soldiers died, not because of major battles with thousands of opposing troops, but because of thousands of small wars in the dark. in cramped caves, in stifling tunnels, in dark, rocky crevices. Flamethrowers became the most important weapon, the only thing that could clear the deadly caves. American soldiers carried heavy fuel tanks, spraying streams of liquid fire into cave mouths, incinerating everything inside. The smell of burning flesh permeated everywhere, a smell the survivors would never forget. This was not modern warfare with tanks, planes, and artillery. This was cave warfare, primal and brutal as the prehistoric age. Man against man in the dark, only meters apart, able to hear the enemy's breathing before pulling the trigger. February 23rd, the 5th day of the battle. After 4 days of bloody fighting with casualties reaching into the thousands, a company of Marines finally climbed to the top of Mount Suribachi. They didn't know if any Japanese soldiers were still hiding on the summit. They advanced step by step, guns ready, hearts pounding. But when they reached the top, they saw only empty ground, bunkers that had been destroyed, fortifications that had been abandoned. They planted a small American flag, a flag they carried in a backpack. It fluttered in the wind, atop the highest point of the island. Down on the beach, soldiers looked up and cheered. On the ships offshore, whistles blew. It was a moment of hope amidst hell. A few hours later, a larger flag was brought up to replace it. A flag large enough to be seen from all over the island and from the ships offshore. 6 soldiers were chosen to raise the new flag. Photographer Joe Rosenthal of the AP stood nearby, camera in hand. He didn't know he was about to snap one of the most famous photos in history. As the 6 soldiers raised the flagpole together, Rosenthal clicked the shutter. The photo of 6 American soldiers raising the flag on Suribachi would become one of the most famous images in history, a symbol of courage, of victory, of the American spirit. It would be printed on stamps, cast into monuments, and appear in countless books and movies. But few knew the truth behind the photo. 3 of those 6 soldiers would die before the battle ended. Harlan Block, Franklin Sousley, and Michael Strang. They would fall in the weeks that followed, on the very island where they had just planted the flag of victory. In the command bunker deep underground, Kuribayashi received news that Suribachi had fallen. He showed no surprise. He had known this would happen. Suribachi was only part of the plan. Suribachi is only 1/3 of the island, he told his officers, his voice calm. They think they have won, but the real battle starts now. After planting the flag on Suribachi, many thought the battle was nearing its end. War correspondents sent back optimistic reports. The American public hoped their sons would soon return home. They were wrong. They were catastrophically wrong. The next 3 weeks were the 3 most brutal weeks in the history of the U.S. Marine Corps. The remaining 2/3 of the island, the northern plateau with its rugged terrain, full of caves and bunkers, turned into a massive meat grinder. Every day, American soldiers advanced a few dozen meters, sometimes only a few meters. Every meter of ground had to be paid for in blood. Every cave had to be taken with grenades, flamethrowers, and human bodies. Gunnery Sergeant John Basilone, the hero of Guadalcanal, who had received the Medal of Honor and returned to the U.S. as a star, had volunteered to return to the battlefield. He could have stayed in the U.S., lived a comfortable life, traveled around giving war bond speeches, but he chose to go back. "I can't stay home while my boys are still fighting," he told his wife before leaving. On February 19th, the very first day of the landing, Basilone led a group of soldiers up the beach under heavy fire. He destroyed a bunker with grenades and machine gun fire, clearing the way for his comrades to advance. but a few hours later, a mortar shell landed right beside him. John Basilone, the hero of Guadalcanal, fell on the black sand of Iwo Jima at the age of 27. He was one of 27 men awarded the Medal of Honor for actions at Iwo Jima, the most of any battle in Marine Corps history. Most of them received the medal posthumously. Every day, American soldiers had to face an enemy they couldn't see, an enemy firing from underground, from inside rocks, from cracks that could only be seen when it was too late. They weren't fighting an army, they were fighting the island itself. When night fell, the Japanese surfaced from the tunnels, infiltrated American positions, killed a few men, then vanished into the darkness before anyone could react. Sleep became a luxury. Fear became a constant companion. You never knew when they would appear, a surviving soldier later recounted. You could be sleeping and wake up to find a bayonet in your chest. Many died that way. On March 17th, after nearly a month of fighting, Kuribayashi sent his final telegram to Tokyo. The battle is approaching its end. Since the enemy landed, fierce combat has continued day and night. I sincerely apologize for failing to fulfill the mission of defending this island. Please forgive me. I will not return. Night of March 25. Kuribayashi knew there was no hope left. Ammunition was nearly exhausted. Many guns didn't have a single bullet left. Food had run out days ago. Soldiers had to eat grass and roots to survive. Most of the 21,000 men had fallen. Only a few hundred survivors remained, hiding in the final caves. But Kuribayashi refused to surrender. Surrender was not an option. He gathered the survivors, about 300 emaciated soldiers in tatters, eyes sunken from hunger, thirst, and exhaustion. They stood in lines in a large cave, torchlight flickering on faces covered in dirt and dried blood. Tonight, Kuribayashi said, his voice as calm as ever, we will execute the final mission. Not banzai. We will not scream as we charge into gun barrels. We will move in silence, like ghosts. We will infiltrate their camp while they sleep. And we will take as many enemies down to hell with us as possible. He looked at each man, men who had fought beside him for over a month, men who had not flinched once in the face of death. I will lead, he said. Follow me. 3 a.m. Darkness covered the island. 300 shadows quietly emerged from the earth, moving like ghosts across the rugged terrain. They carried no guns. Many had only swords, bayonets, or even just sharpened wooden sticks. But in their eyes was the determination of men who had accepted death. They broke into the American camp area, where soldiers were sleeping after a day of exhausting combat. The first shot rang out, then screams, the sound of steel clashing against steel. Hand-to-hand combat erupted in the dark. Floodlights clicked on everywhere. Machine guns roared. Bullets flew like rain in the night. When dawn broke, the battle ended. Almost all 300 Japanese soldiers had fallen, lying scattered across the camp area, hands still clutching weapons. 53 American soldiers died. Over 100 were wounded. Kuribayashi was among the fallen. No one knows exactly how he died. Some say he was shot, others say he committed ritual suicide in the samurai tradition. His body was never found. The general who turned Iwo Jima into hell had vanished into the earth, merging with the island he had defended to his last breath. On March 26, 1945, Iwo Jima was officially declared secure. 36 days after the landing, 7 times longer than Major General Schmidt's initial prediction. American side,
6,821 killed in action, 19,217 wounded, totaling over 26,000 casualties, nearly one-third of the total invasion force. Japanese side, about 20,000 killed in action, only 216 prisoners, most captured when unconscious or severely wounded. 99% of the Japanese troops fought to the death, just as Kuribayashi ordered. This was the only battle in U.S. Marine Corps history where total American casualties exceeded the casualties of the enemy. Kuribayashi had fulfilled his promise. Every Japanese soldier had killed more than one American before falling. But the legacy of the Battle of Iwo Jima does not lie only in the casualty figures. It lies in other numbers that are rarely mentioned. By the time the war ended, 2,400 B-29 aircraft had made emergency landings at Iwo Jima. These were planes damaged on bombing runs over Japan, without enough fuel to fly back to base in Saipan, needing a place to land to save the crew. 27,000 crew members were saved, thanks to Iwo Jima serving as an emergency landing site. 27,000 sons, husbands, and fathers returned to their families instead of sinking to the bottom of the Pacific. Admiral Chester W. Nimitz, Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific Fleet, wrote of Iwo Jima, "Among the Americans who served on Iwo Island, uncommon valor was a common virtue." Kuribayashi had changed the game. He had discarded tradition, discarded what the Japanese believed to be honor, to create a new tactic, a tactic of patience, of concealment, of turning every meter of ground into a deadly trap. And the Americans had to pay in blood to adapt. But in the end, they won. Not with superior tactics, not with advanced weapons. They won through perseverance, through courage, through refusing to quit no matter how high the cost. And perhaps the 27,000 airmen saved thanks to this island are the answer to the question many ask, why do we have to die here? They died so that 27,000 others could live. They died so that B-29s could continue bombing, shortening the war, saving millions of lives, both American and Japanese, from an invasion of the Japanese mainland that would have been exponentially bloodier. Iwo Jima was not just a battle. It was a lesson in war, in sacrifice, in the price of victory. It was where two men, Schmidt and Kuribayashi, representing two completely different views of war, faced off on a tiny island in the middle of the Pacific. And it was where tens of thousands of young men, both American and Japanese, shed their blood to write one of the most tragic and heroic pages of World War II.